Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's another episode of Leeds United Latest with myself, Stephen Brown, and also joining me as ever, Jason Booker. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, mate. Happy
We've
Sunday.
got our cuppers. We're all ready to go. We're here to have a little chat about all things Leeds United. Plenty to catch up on. A lot's happened in the last week. We're going to get into the friendly yesterday against Villarreal. We're also going to talk a little bit about Daniel Farke's comments as well after the game, which were very, very interesting, and just reflect on the general kind of mood as we approach that first game against Everton back in the Premier League. If you're watching along live, please do like the video. If you're watching this again later, please do like the video as well. Get subscribed to the channel. It's getting busy again. Season's kicked off in League One. Those League One minnows, Jason, hanging about, they've all kicked off. So, plenty of content going up at the moment. Get subscribed to catch that as well. And we're on other socials as well, TikTok and all that modern jazz as well. Jason, you were at the game yesterday. We're going to get into that. But I just wanted to kind of wrap up kind of where we were last week with the Piao deal. Now, when we were on 7 days ago, the deal was still very, very much alive. We were kind of half jesting that wouldn't it be nice if the deal suddenly was agreed whilst we were live on stream. It didn't happen, and I think it was later Sunday night when it all collapsed and Marseille snuck in there, or it might have been the Monday, I'm not sure. But that deal fell through. An article was dropped on Monday by some of the local journalists saying that Leeds had agreed personal terms, had agreed the transfer fee, but ultimately he decided to go to Marseille. And it was fascinating to hear that Parag had been on the phone, Lucas Perry had been on the phone to Piao to try and twist his arm. And I don't know about you, but I felt very flat Monday, Tuesday after that transfer failing, because obviously it had been a saga that had rumbled on, and to get so close to it happening, to signing someone who would have genuinely been a difference maker, and probably after yesterday's game you're looking at going, that's what we need. It was gutting to not get that one over the line, wasn't it, Jason?
Yeah, I think we'd all kind of convinced ourselves it was going to happen as well. There'd been a lot of positive sounding noise come our way, and particular media outlets were reporting it, people were talking about it, and it looked like we were just waiting for the Fabrizio seal, it's on kind of thing. And it came from Marseille the following day, didn't it? I think, look, when you're in this, especially for attackers, when you're in this world of, looking to genuinely improve to not just a notch up on Ramazani, Nonto, James, Harrison, you're looking to go into that next bracket of players.
Yeah.
You're going to have these situations where a Champions League playing team from the continent will come and dip in for one of these players. Piao's probably not ready to play for one of our Champions League teams in this country because of the level of the Premier League. So, Newcastle are not going to come in and nick him, I wouldn't have thought, or, Manchester City or Liverpool or Arsenal. But when you then look at the like for like on the continent, the likes of Marseille, who they're never going to win the Champions League, but they can still offer that level of football right at the top of Ligue 1. How do you really compete with that, given the position that we're in? I would much rather us go for these players that are a little bit of a stretch target, as the club are talking about him as, and have a go and actually try and get them. I brandish Anton Stack as one of them. Anton Stack could have easily gone to a Champions League team on the continent, and we'll get into him and his performance, and we'll talk about him in more detail, but he's a stretch target that we managed to get. Whereas Longstaff, as an example, I think is a great signing for us. He wasn't a stretch target. He was one that was very realistic for us to go and get. And you can see the level difference between the two of them. So you have to have these moments where, unfortunately, you're left with this kind of bit of disappointment, and you hope that the club are going to now go and, come up with another target that is going to be a fitting replacement. Because I think the initial hits after that was Johnny Rowe from Marseille, and how flat it then felt because of the drop off from Piao to Johnny Rowe. And Johnny Rowe obviously is the player that Piao is going to replace at Marseille. So it all then kind of felt, but that probably would be what most people would have considered a fair target for us before going for Piao. So you've just got to lick your wounds and get on with it, I think. I'm really good because it would have been a difference maker, just like Rafinha was when we signed Rafinha. It'd have been exactly the same as us signing Rafinha. Obviously, we had no idea whether it is going to get to them levels, but the kind of perspective and the journey would have been the same.
Yeah, and it does speak volumes about how hard we pushed it when we'd agreed personal terms and also club fee as well. And
if
Marseille
didn't put the money up, if they didn't put the money up, mate, we would probably be sat here with him now. If Marseille had turned away and said we're not matching Leeds' bid of 35 million or whatever it is, I fully believe he'd have gone to Leeds. I don't think it was the case that he didn't want to come to Leeds. Well, we know he wanted to come to Leeds. He'd agreed personal terms. But when it's we love Leeds, but is Leeds as attractive as a lovely part of France? Probably not. Can we offer him Champions League football? No. Can we offer him Champions League football next year or the year after? Probably not. You know what I mean? So this for him makes a logical step. He's not English. He's Brazilian who's been living in Holland for however long. It's just different, isn't it? So
yeah. I needed to get on the phone and tell him about Don Revy, and I'm sure that would have sealed the deal, but not for me, unfortunately. If someone could have hooked me up, where does that leave you in terms of how you're rating the transfer window at the moment? Because I think we were absolutely buzzing last week. I think we thought, we had it on the thumbnail, but is this the best transfer window ever? And that was with in mind that Piao was kind of almost ready to go. I think I feel kind of at the moment, and I don't know if it's kind of with Farke's comments from kind of yesterday, but I'm thinking 6 or 7 out of 10. I think a Piao would have taken it to a 9. And then if you get that striker like a Muniz and a bit of fullback cover, you're looking at 10 out of 10. I'm kind of looking at it now going 6, 7-ish out of 10. I mean, where do you kind of sit on it?
I'd probably still say it's a high 7 because I think we've got some incredible value within the signings that we've made. We've got some potential resale value, but we've also got experienced players that are ready to play now. Whereas I see some of the transfers that are going on around the division and I think, future potential. We don't really know how they're going to be. We don't know how they're going to look. I can see what we're trying to do. I think we've filled some glaring holes right through the spine of the team. Centre-back, centre midfield and goalkeeper especially. We do still have some glaring holes though, and I know we're going to get into that as well. I think we really miss that creative flair type player that's going to come in and be able to unlock the doors. You saw a little bit of that yesterday. You saw it from both teams, to be honest, because they had a little bit of it as well. But it's hard to give it any more than that, but I think it's unfair to give it any less either. I think we were saying 7 players for 70 million or something like that, with 75 million, we said the other day, and that's unbelievable value. I do think there's a lot of business still to be done, and I think we're going to see a lot of action between now. Daniel Farke said by the time of the first international break, which I don't know exactly when that is. Is it?
I mean, it's kind of the transfer window closes like the 1st of September, doesn't it? So it must be kind of.
It must be before that
or something. I think maybe,
which is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember it being in August, the first international break. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure kind of what is later. I mean, the loan window, is that open a little bit longer? Is it or something?
No, you have to have them registered by 1st of September.
No. Well, we'll circle back round to the transfer business and what Farke said. And just before we get into yesterday's game, just to bring up some of your comments. Nige, morning, guys. Good to see you this Sunday morning. You too, Nige. Thanks for tuning in. Gav, morning, mate. How are you? Skip, it was a good performance yesterday against a quality La Liga side. We have good strength and break-up play in the middle, but we lack serious creativity. So hopefully it can be done. Tom, I'm going to keep saying it. We need another backup fullback. I was getting worried when Goodmanson went down. I'd be worried if Byram was needed for a number of games. So getting into the Villarreal game yesterday, Jason, I couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch it, unfortunately. So I've only just seen the highlights, and it was kind of fascinating because I was trying to scroll for updates on Twitter, and I was reading your updates, and what did you make of it? Kind of, obviously, lots of different players coming in and out of the team. Few eyebrows raised with the absentees. No Bogle, no Perry, no Dan James. What did you what did you make of it overall? What kind of did you pick out from the game?
Yeah, there's some there were some really glaring, obvious things, both positively and negatively. Anton Stack is an absolute baller. I liked the signing anyway, and I know that we fought off some stiff competition to get him. I likened him to Paulinho before we kind of kicked the ball, and I just seen Paulinho's going to Spurs on loan actually, which is quite an interesting one. Speaking of him, and that's the kind of player that he is. He's big. He's powerful. He carries the ball in straight lines really well and really quickly, if that makes sense. Like, he covers a lot of ground. He's hard in the tackle. His passing range is excellent. Like, within, I'd say, 20 minutes, he'd sprayed 2 cross-field balls, Calvin Phillips style, into the channels of the wings. Very, very nice player. Really, really like him. So that was the first thing that I kind of took. The second thing I took was that it's not a 4-3-3. It's definitely a 4-1-4-1. It's very evidently a 4-1-4-1, almost Bielsa style. Calvin in front of the back 4, then another 4, and then a striker. That's exactly what it is. It's Ampadu sat in front of the back line, very specifically in between the lines. So he's not part of a midfield 3. There's not 2 DMs. It's Ampadu, and then it's a 4 in front of him. So I think that's really interesting, because I think it'll make us more difficult to break down through the centre, which is what I saw yesterday. I thought the gaps got plugged really well when Villarreal attacked down the centre and we won the ball back. We moved the ball a little bit too slowly at times, which we've seen previously under Farke. It was very risk averse. We wanted to keep the ball. Almost at times, it looks like we're keeping the ball for the sake of keeping the ball, if that makes sense. I don't think that's what it is, but I think that's what's happening. And then because we have a bit of a lack of creativity in the forward areas, i.e. a number 10, somebody to unpick the gaps, it kind of stalls and we give the ball back more often than not. I thought Brendan had a really, really good game yesterday. And I think most people will find that hard to kind of acknowledge, especially second half. I thought he really, really got on top of it and played really well from the right. However, his lack of pace really kind of caught him out. And even the moment where he provided the assist, it was kind of like he overrun it and then knocked it past. He didn't have that electric pace to burn away like a Dan James does. So that had been my concern with him out on the right, but he played well yesterday, and he's such a harrier. Like, he's industrial. He wins the ball back up high. It's important for us that we've got that, especially when Perot's not on the pitch. Especially when Perot is on the pitch. So yeah, I was happy with that. Isaac Schmidt's miles away. I know I'm flip-flopping here, by the way. I know I'm flip-flopping from but I'm just trying to give you an overview. And please, in the comments, just drop anything in that you think against what I'm saying. But Schmidt is miles away from it. Miles and miles and miles as a fullback. And anybody that claimed that he should have been starting over Byron last season, again, he's just doing it because you don't know what you don't know what you're talking about, because none of us knew really what we were talking about. We didn't know whether Isaac Schmidt could play fullback. And guess what? The manager said that he couldn't. Because he didn't play in there, and it's been proven that he can't. I thought it was awful yesterday defensively. It was really, really poor. Constantly getting caught out of position, getting caught inside too close to the centre back, then getting caught too far out wide. Any attack that Villarreal had in the first half came down his side, and it was behind him or around him. He kept on going in and kind of haphazardly challenging for the ball to clear the ball, and it just looked like a young boy trying to play football at school. That's what it looked like at times. I thought it were an absolute mess. So yeah,
not someone you'd want up against Premier League wingers then.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, Villarreal are an all right side. I'd say they're a mid-table La Liga side. I don't know how full strength the team was yesterday, but they weren't great either, if I'm honest. I kind of likened it to 2 average top flight teams seeing out a 1-1 draw. That's kind of what I said. That's what it looked like. I thought the game was very fair. It was a bit boring, if I'm honest. Like, there was large parts of it that were.
I read that in a few match reports. I know Graham Smith in the YP said it was largely quite a boring affair, really.
It was, which is, it's pre-season, it happens, and that's fine. There were some nice build-up plays in periods. There were like I said, there were bits that I liked, bits that I didn't like. Joe Rodon is clearly our number 1 centre-back. I think that's pretty obvious. I think Pascal started the game because Biel's out of the first, and Biel came on at half-time because Barnau was not available at the minute due to injury. And I think we've got like 5 first-team players out, which is a big shame, really. I was a little bit concerned with Jacob Biel's pace. I can't lie. It's the first time I've obviously seen him in the flesh. I liked a lot about him, and I'm really excited by the signing. I think he's a very strong, industrial, really good in the air centre back, and but because of his pace, he's then forced to kind of make some desperate tackles, which look good when they come off, but I can imagine that he's going to give away a few penalties this season. That's what it looked like. It looked like he's constantly running in treacle behind the attacker, and he'll get there most of the time.
I remember that being one of the points that was raised about Piao before we signed him. There was like all the pluses, but then the lack of pace.
Yeah.
Is he someone that, it's got to be a deeper line. It can't be kind of a high line with him in it at all.
Or
unless you've got some covering or something.
We have some sort of solution from the fullback that can cover it. Yeah. He didn't look as comfortable on the ball as what I expected as well. There were a couple of passes that were nice, but I thought he'd be better at dribbling the ball out, and he looked a little bit clumsy. So potentially slight concern, but nowhere near as much of a concern as the full-back situation was. Somebody mentioned the tackle on Goodmunson. He got absolutely clattered in a bit of a scrap with the keeper and their attacker, and it looked like he might have to come off, and he didn't, thankfully. Byron came on at right back for Schmidt, and I think Byron did fine, and I think Byron will always give you a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Against most Premier League wingers, he will probably be fine, but the upper echelon ones, we know he's going to suffer, so we need a James Justin in there that can play both sides. That is an absolute imperative. It's probably more pressing than the striker. I'd say that the number 10 now, or I'm going to say an inverted left winger that can maybe do both jobs, is really, really key if we're going to see us scoring goals.
Yeah. And do you know what? I appreciate your honesty with Bijol, because I think it's easy to just look at him and go, oh, it's a star signing and he's immune from kind of a critical analysis. And I think it's really important that we don't get into, and we try desperately on this show not to have bias towards or against players. We totally call it as we see. And that's going to be an interesting adjustment for him, isn't it, Jason? I mean, it's a level up from Serie A. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And he played in a team near the bottom in Serie A, so it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts.
100%. It's half my battle with dealing with social media and content and fans and stuff, because the back and forward that people have when they stick to opinions just drives me insane. And I'll never do it. Like, I was super, super gassed when we signed Jacoby, or super excited, and I still am. Like, it's early days, but I'm going to call the performance for what it was. And my initial kind of early concerns are that he might be too slow, and there could be some issues there. So, and we should be able to call it as it is. Like I said, there'll be people that sit here in the chat right now or on social media today that'll still slate Brendan Aronson yesterday, even though he was our best player. And we just won't do that.
Do you know what? I when it started to come through, the reports of people saying Brendan Aronson was the best player on the pitch, I particularly enjoyed that, because there's been a couple of things kind of on social media that's kind of been floating around that's really kind of wound me up. And my problem is, at the minute, I'm in a total phone addiction checking for transfer news. So I'm on X all day long, Jason. I can't tell you how much I'm checking that app for updates. It's just like a total addiction at this point. And just seeing some of the opinions, I mean, Aronson's a classic one. It's like this guy contributed nothing last season. It's like we went up in spite of Brendan Aronson. And it just absolutely boggles my mind. The other one that's been growing this week that's really winding me up is reports that Solomon might be back on the scene in terms of signing him, and fans going, this is horrible. What can't we do better? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, these are the same people that are, saying Ramazani should have started more last season, and Ramazani's good enough for the Premier League. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm not convinced by Ramazani at all. And I think anybody who's saying Ramazani over Solomon, I think you need to get your head checked. Were you not watching last season? I just don't get it. I don't get how you can think the guy who couldn't get Solomon out of the team is better and more equipped to play than Solomon in the Premier League. How does that logic work? Can you help me out with that? Because I'm really struggling with the logic of that.
I mean, there's two things at play. People get married to opinions, and they're not capable of then just saying, hands up, I was wrong.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And the second thing, and I've mentioned it before, there's a racial element to the Solomon situation. It's as simple as that. There is. People can deny it all they want. It's an unconscious, unbiased racism. Just saying it as it is. It's exactly what it is. He was arguably our best player, certainly from January. He was certainly from January. He was the golden ticket. It was the reason that we've not had any big interest in our players this year for our out and out talent is because our one real jewel in the crown was Manor Solomon, and it wasn't owned by us. If Manor Solomon had been owned by us, we'd have had 25-30 million quid's worth of bids in. I feel absolutely. If he'd have been signed for us at the start of last season, we'd have had mega interest in him this summer. Yeah, mega interest. And I think there will be mega interest in Manor Solomon. I don't think it'll just be Leeds that are going for him. So, I mean, if Gav's just mentioned 15 to 17 million, if we get him for anywhere near that, I'd say go sign him and sign another one as well. 100%. Like, I don't think it'll be that. 100%. I think it'll be 25-30 million, personally. 20 to 25 maybe. But we still have to factor in the injuries and stuff, but he's now had a season back. He should be absolutely fine. Ramazani, people talk about Ramazani like he's 19. He's not. He's mid-20s. He's 24. When we signed him, he wasn't there wasn't this desperate clamour from the top divisions to sign him. And then he came in and didn't really feature because he wasn't good enough. It's not because it's not for any other reason. He had his opportunities. He played well in the first few games that he started. He got injured. He came out of the side. And then when he got opportunities again, he never took them. Yeah. That's it. It's 100%. As simple as that. And Daniel Farke got it spot on. I mean, any criticism of any decision last season now is just absolutely null and void. We hit 100 points. So, Ramazani's got potential, but people talk about him they talk about him like he's a world beater. And I think he's got potential, but he's not.
I honestly don't get it. Listen, I want to keep Ramazani, and I think he's a good option in the Premier League. I think he's clearly a talented player, and maybe he could get to a consistent level, but he's miles off it for me. If we were starting with Ramazani, I'd be really concerned. I really would, because I don't think he's good enough yet.
People won't want to wear it, Brownie, but Jack Harrison's in front of him. He is.
I will. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I won't be surprised if there's still an exit with Ramazani. You never know. There could still be a loan out. There could still be a fee. Farke's clearly not convinced. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Some other bits and pieces then, the striker position, Jason, obviously Leeds are still chasing a striker, but we saw Nemecha again yesterday, Piao. I mean, how do you kind of view that balance? We've talked a little bit about what you get with Nemecha and what you get with Piao. I mean, Piao, another goal again.
It feels very similar to the conversation that we're having with regards to the wingers. So I think Piao and Mecha will probably be absolutely fine as kind of bog standard Premier League bottom 6 players. I think they will, and that's ultimately the net that we're going to be fishing in, right? But we're looking at this potential striker that can take us up a serious level. So, excuse me, when we're talking about Rodrigo Muniz has now got this attention from Newcastle. Yeah. So the conversation I was having earlier about Piao and on the continent, he wouldn't have really been ready for a top 4 team in this country. Rodrigo Muniz now apparently Newcastle are considering him as an option. I don't think that he's that level yet. I said that to Lou the other day in the chat. I think that would be a step too far for him. But he is also this step too far for us. He's a stretch target. He's a very, very good player with a pretty good goal scorer in return in the Premier League when you consider the minutes that he's played. So I think we pursue it if that's the player that we see as being right for the time, right for the fit and right for the squad for Farke, and we keep on going to that until it's considered dead in the water, and then we go again if there is another stretch target that's going to improve us significantly. I like Mecha as a hold-up player. I think he's got pressing abilities as well. He reminds me a bit of Bamford. Yeah. In that he will do all of the stuff before putting the ball in the net. There's a moment that Mecha gets early on yesterday. You'll see it. It's probably the first highlight of the game. Yeah. Sean Longstaff puts him through. And I knew from the second that he picked the ball up, his first touch, I knew we weren't going to score. I just knew it. You could tell. You know what I mean? He's one of them strikers that he waited too long, he took the angle too tight, then he scuffed the finish a little bit, and I just knew. Whereas Piao wouldn't have done that, but Piao wouldn't have had the pace to stretch the pit. Whereas Moniz would likely have finished that. They're the three differences, you know. So I think we're gonna be happy with Mecha now, but I can imagine 3 months into the season we're gonna be frustrated with him. That's how I feel about him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And certainly you don't want to be in a situation where he's starting game after game and, you know, you fail to get another target in.
I think he'll serve a real purpose. And I really do like him. Like, I think he's better than we thought he was.
Yeah.
Certainly outside of the parameters of putting the ball in the back of the net. Like, I really like his hold-up play. He'll get his body in the way. He's clever. Like, he rolls his body in front of defenders and kind of makes them commit to either fouling him or letting him go. I think he'll be really useful, but I just don't imagine that he's going to get us the amount of goals that we're going to need to stay up. And Piao, I think Piao will end up scoring 7 to 10 goals this season, but I reckon they'll be late on, off the bench, odd moments here or there. Like, I think Predatory in pre-season has been bang on it. But again, is he going to be able to do enough? My biggest concern with Piao yesterday was that he was actually the biggest creative spark that we had in the second half, dropping into that 10 pocket and playing the balls in. And that concerns me a little bit in terms of...
Been a feature of pre-season, that, hasn't it? He's in all the games. It's been like that, hasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Top Banana Morning and Tickle a Light for the lads. Thank you very much, mate. Sean Longstaff, Jason, kind of getting the vibe of it on social media. It seemed like a mixed bag in terms of a couple of really good early balls played through. Even on the highlights, he has a really sloppy moment where he gets caught in possession. Just before I kind of get to your take on it, I feel like at the moment I would probably be leaning towards Ampadu, Stack and Tanaka as a kind of 3, depending on what Farke wants to do. But what say you, and what did you make of him yesterday?
I think it'll be horses for courses. I think it will be a combination of Stack, Ampadu, and then one other. I think that's definitely the way that it'll be. Stack is far too good to not be starting games, regardless of who we're playing. And I think Ampadu, some people, I find it really bizarre the takes that Ampadu has against him. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people don't rate him. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I think he's by far the best leader that we've got by a mile. I think he reads the game well. He always wants the ball, which I think is a big part of it. He can drop into that back line. I think he's going to serve a massive purpose, Ampadu. I think if we stay up, which I do think we will, I think he will play a huge part. But yeah,
he has the quality as well, doesn't he? No, you know, is it shiny new toy syndrome? You know, it's always like, what's the latest kind of thing.
I think so. Yeah, I think he's one of them players that probably just doesn't get the appreciation that he deserves. You know, we loved Calvin because he were a Leeds boy, but if he hadn't been a Leeds boy, I don't think he'd have got the credit that he deserved. You know, I think like Adam Forshaw as well. Adam Forshaw, when he was fit, was a hell of a player, and he just never got the credit that he deserved. But
yeah,
Ampadu is that aggressive player we need. Ampadu is not strong enough. You got to love fans, don't you? You got to love fans. So yeah, I think we have got a battle on our hands there between the two, and I think that they'll both complement the team in different ways. Tanaka's probably going to be a little bit more industrial going forward than Longstaff in the way that from what I've seen. I think Longstaff's just a really all-round solid midfielder. I think he'll serve a real purpose, and again, I think he'll play a lot of games. I don't think that we need better for where we are going to be this season.
Is he this season's totally different type of player, but is he this season's kind of Joe Rothwell in terms of impact and appearances? Because Rothwell was very kind of, he'd be in and then he'd be out a bit and then, you know, kind of shuffled about a bit.
Service purpose, probably don't expect to start every game, but expects to start a fair number if he's playing well. I think that's how he looks. There's nothing flashy about him. I think you've got to bear in mind that some of these players will serve a tactical purpose for Daniel Farke. So the two outside of Ampadu drop into the fullback roles a lot. Yeah. So the fullbacks can push a little bit further forward and give us that width that we've had over the last couple of seasons. Not every midfielder will do that. Not every midfielder is disciplined enough to do that within their game, and Longstaff is, and Stack is. So yeah, I think then you throw in Ilya Gruev as well. Ilya Gruev, I've actually been really impressed with him in pre-season. Really impressed. Yeah, I think his passing range has developed. He started zipping balls into the fullbacks. I was sat on that side yesterday, and he was absolutely pinging balls at Gudmundsson, and Gudmundsson was struggling to kind of deal with it on the run, which is on him to improve. But Gruev were playing well, and he's so disciplined defensively. Maybe we were wrong, and maybe he has got the capabilities, given his footballing brain, to make up them shortfalls that he's got in pace and technical ability. My biggest concern with Gruev is his lack of right foot, and he's got no right foot. Like, he's zero right foot.
I mean, he's like a one-legged man, isn't he? It's just not even there, is it?
No, like he cannot even pass the ball 2 yards on his right foot. He has to stand on his right foot to pass the ball with his left. It's really, really odd for a footballer, a professional top-level footballer, to be that limited with one foot. But alas, that's what he is. But I do like some of the stuff that he does. So I can imagine him definitely in against the big sides coming in and plugging holes. Like I said, there's a reason Dortmund wanted him last year, isn't there?
Yeah, indeed. Skip, do we know how long Perry is out for? Apparently, might be back in training soon and everything.
I heard it was work permit more than.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I heard that his work permit had not come through. I don't know how true that is, but it was discussed yesterday, that all of the other ones had muscle injuries, but Perry apparently didn't got the visa back in time. That's what I heard, though. But I don't know how true that is.
Well, we saw half of Melia again, didn't we? Melia came on for the second half, didn't they? I believe, and Darlow first half. I mean, it looks as if Perry may start for the Milan game. We're not entirely sure. Still seeing Melia out there. Did it kind of give you the heebie-jeebies seeing him still out there in a Leeds shirt? I know some fans have reacted to that.
I mean, I've seen some really, really horrible stuff on that. Now that we've signed a replacement goalkeeper, I have got nothing but love for Melia again. Like, I know we're not going to start. I'm choosing to remember the Melia that got us promoted. He still played 30-something games last season as well. I know he's had his times. I've been calling for him to come out of the side for 3 years. I'm not turning back on what I've said. But we've now replaced him. And he needs a pre-season as well. Perry wasn't available, so it's a keeper each half while they work their way back in. Melia had a good half yesterday. He made a fantastic save that then went onto the crossbar and it came back down and they nodded it in. He saved that. If you watch it back, he tips it onto the bar. I'm just refusing to carry on this notion that we need to now be super critical of a player that's given us loads and, won 2 championships with us, was young goalkeeper of the year in the first Premier League season, broke the clean sheets record for a young keeper. I refuse to kind of carry on this notion that we need to just keep bashing him. He had a moment yesterday where Isaac Schmidt, you won't have seen this on the highlights, but Isaac Schmidt threw him the ball from a throw-in, basically at the corner flag, put it on Melia's right foot, and then the crowd were like, "Oh, Ilan!" And it's like, oh, hold on a minute. Schmidt honestly launched the ball at his feet and then had loads of pressure from Villarreal players putting on him, and Melia kind of spooned it up in air on his right foot, and it eventually then got cleared. But it just shows you the kind of attitude that fans have towards somebody when they just don't like him anymore, So, I'm not wasting any more energy on it. It did fine. Yesterday.
No, Jayden Bogle, who, we know how outstanding he was last season, how good he's looked in the pre-season. Little bit worrying in terms of his situation there, apparently out with a hip flexor. And we knew we were a bit thin on the ground, and it is such an outlet for us with Bogle. How concerned were you to see him not on the pitch yesterday?
Truthfully, Brownie, right? And I mean this, I actually think he's our biggest miss. Junior Firpo's left. We know what we got from Firpo in an attacking sense. And we know how vital Jayden Bogle was last season and how dangerous he was, especially the second half of the season. Again, I'm taking Manor Solomon out of the equation because he's not a Leeds player. I look at that team yesterday and we desperately missed Jayden Bogle from an attacking point of view. Desperately missed him. We would have created so many more chances down that right because we were getting openings, but Schmidt and Aronson, especially in the first half, just weren't capable of kind of putting it together. Jayden had done that. He is absolutely vital for the way that we play. And during pre-season, I mean, he's been electric, hasn't he? He's been really, really on it. Yeah. So, worried about him being out, worried about the options that we've then got down that side, when he's out. He, massively missed yesterday. Massively missed. Schmidt is such a level drop. Such a level drop. He's a bottom end championship fullback. I don't even think he's a fullback. I don't.
No, I can see that. Even just from the cameos. I didn't see yesterday's game, but just watching him, he doesn't look like a fullback, does he really? The way he plays. Well, it led on to kind of a very interesting post-match interview with Daniel Farke, name-dropping Manor Solomon, and he had this.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, just before I bring that up, he said we've lost our main creative outlet from last season. He said that to LUTV as well, so it wasn't like an external; it was in-house as well, saying that they missed, they haven't got that kind of creative outlet that they had last year. And this quote, I think, caught a few eyes as well. Daniel Farke saying yesterday, in the offence, we are not ready for Premier League level. We have to make sure that we have a competitive squad by latest the first international break. Now, when I saw that, my eyebrows raised. I thought that was a lot stronger than I would have imagined being said at this point. Whether you agree in that amount of, strong terms or what, I thought it was very noticeable. And that's a clear kind of call to action, or that's to keep the pressure on. Leeds have spent 70 odd million and reinforced, mostly, defence and midfield. But clearly, and I think yesterday, the as we've discussed earlier, that creative outlet, that top of the pitch, we need more. Just in terms of Daniel Farke there, that's a couple of weeks before the first game of the season. It's quite strong, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a call to action, isn't it, for the board? I mean, it's obvious we wanted Igar playing Piao, and that's obviously what he's talking about. So you've got to give the club some credit. They won't have just done that without Daniel Farke's kind of say so. Is he the man that you want? Yes, he is. Okay, we're going to wait until we see if that one comes off, and if it doesn't, then we move on. It was very quick then that the Bilal El Khanous noise started, and he would give us more creativity. I think more centrally, but I know he has played out on the left as well. I actually think he would end up being more of a centre midfielder that then becomes a 10 or a high 8 rather than a left winger. I still think we'd end up signing a winger as well, but maybe that'd be the creativity that we need. I don't know. Maybe it'd be as well as. But we haven't replaced Manor Solomon. He's spot on. Nobody has the experience, the composure, the quality that Manor Solomon has on a regular basis. They just don't. So often fans they choose to ignore all of the good stuff that Manor Solomon does that doesn't result in a goal. Yeah. They ignore all that because you have to have sometimes 5 or 6 opportunities before one of them ends up going in. Yesterday, we had none at times. There was nothing coming from the left. And Nonto tried in build-up, but very little was coming from that side. Gudmundsson got a few crosses in. Brendan was industrial, but it was very limited. And then central, I mean, we literally had nothing central. So, yeah.
I just want to respond because BSF here, the 49ers don't need a call to action. They are obviously in the market for a 10 and 9. But Farke's come out and specifically said we're not ready in the attacking sense. He could have come out and said, we're still working on things, we should be ready. But, for me, it felt quite pointed, in terms of what he's expecting there to be done. And the fact that...
I think that's quite, sorry to interrupt you, Brian. I think that's quite an interesting point from PSF, if I'm honest. I think there's something in that because we clearly are in the market for that. So where is this kind of separation between, you're right, what Farke's saying and what's actually happening? Is he frustrated at the speed of which it's happening? I'm guessing he knows it's happening like we do, but why is that comment not what you're saying there?
Well, the strange thing is that earlier in the week after the Piao deal fell through, Beren Cross in The Athletic and Graham Smith in the YEP both dropped articles briefed by the club saying, in terms of options that are better than Ramazani, Dan James, Jack Harrison and Willie Nonto, it's a very small list, and trying to, make it abundantly clear that, look, we're not just going to splash 30 million on anything. And that kind of, sent a little bit of a ripple amongst the fan base saying, well, are we going with what we've got in those positions or what? And then, a few days later, Farke's coming out saying, no, we need reinforcements in that place. So it's a very interesting, I mean, for me, the 49ers are very on the ball with recruitment. I don't think there's any doubt of that. But it's just interesting. I just thought those comments from Farke yesterday were stronger than I would expect from someone who completely is happy with how recruitment is going, I suppose.
They are right, though. Like, this is kind of the point that I was making about Rodrigo Muniz and the step up.
They are right.
They are right because the signing that they need to make, and Igor Piao, is technically a Champions League player. But you need to make sure that they're available, they want to come and join, and then they don't go and join a bigger club than us or someone that's more established in the Premier League than us, or however you kind of want to put that. It's the same. I made the same argument last year. People were just screaming and shouting for any signing. And I were like, well, would you want Todd Cantwell? Because that's a championship level player. If you're not wanting a championship level player, you then have to wait and see if an Emi Buendia comes up. And if an Emi Buendia is prepared to drop down to the Championship and not sign for Bayer Leverkusen, then we'll make the signing because it's better than what we've got. But too many fans just want a signing for the sake of wanting a signing. And it regardless of whether it actually improves you or not, you'll say it in the moment, you'll watch them play, and then you'll be like, oh, he's shit. Like, that's what had happened within 2 or 3 games. I remember it happening with Jayden Bogle. I mean, thankfully, Jayden Bogle turned it round, but that's what happened a year ago. So, we just need to, you're right, have faith in the 49ers. They've got it all right as of yet, or more, 99.9% of it, I'd say that they've got right with the recruitment. Some of these transfers might go a little bit long into the window, and I think that's a concern, and a valid concern for some, because people don't want to see us be on the back foot and be 3 or 4 games in, no points on the board because we've not signed a striker or a 10. So I get it. I do absolutely understand the concern for that. I think it's vital that we have a squad that's capable of beating Everton and we get a 1-0 stinky win over the line on that opening day, especially if we haven't got the reinforcements in them positions yet, because I think it'll just settle everybody down. Yeah, we have got another month yet of the window. So, but I to summarise and to finalise on that point, I'd rather assign the right players, including Manor Solomon. I would be really happy with Manor Solomon coming back, but Igor Piao came up, who's better than Manor Solomon, with more future potential than Manor Solomon. That's how the club are seeing it, and I think they're probably right. I'd rather go for him. So why just run away with the Manor Solomon deal if that one was actually legitimately there, which it was. We had it personal terms agreed. So I just think we have to trust them.
Yeah, it is absolutely fascinating, to be honest. This when it gets to this crunch period, I guess one of the issues is, Nigel's Farke getting his excuses in early, and for Daniel Farke, I'm sure is aware that a poor start puts him under real pressure. So he needs to be as ready as possible. That squad needs to be as ready as possible to go. And for me, I think Everton's a great opportunity to get a win on the board. They're really struggling recruitment-wise. They're signing Barry or whatever it is. He looked shocking in one of their friendlies. They're really struggling to get players over the line. Moyes looks a little bit frustrated with everything at the moment. I think the fans are unhappy. They haven't got the Goodison atmosphere behind them. They've got this kind of pressure of a new stadium. We don't know how that's going to impact things. It's a big opportunity, that first game, and Farke wants to be as ready as possible. But probably from what we've seen in pre-season, are we going to be able to beat a team with this lack of kind of creativity and things happening? But from Farke's point of view, we've said before, the pressure's on from the start, really. Yeah,
it's spot on. I mean, he will definitely be feeling it. He will definitely be under the microscope. He knows that from an internal point of view, the 49ers, the fans, but then everybody else as well. The rest of the country will be expecting him to fail. oh, he did this at Norwich and, 2 relegations, 10 losses in a row in the second time at Norwich and all that. Like, that's going to come up real quick if he has a bad start at Leeds. We have, even with the ones that we're still missing and the funding that's still to come, we have still funded a bit of an overall. There's still a huge improvement. If they all start, I think it's 7 new signings out of an 11 is pretty drastic, some would say. So, yeah, I don't think he's got any excuses, but I do think that there's glaring holes still within the makeup. So maybe he has got an excuse. I don't know. I think he has to work with what he's got for the time being and trust that the club are going to do what he needs them to do. I think the club know that, though. We've seen that. Like, these reports are not fake. They're coming from somewhere. But to make these transfers happen, they sometimes take time, mate.
Yeah. How difficult is it to recruit at fullback when, as you've mentioned, I agree completely about how important Jayden Bogle is and how important probably Goodmanson will be. How hard is it to kind of sell backup fullback to kind of an appropriate level? Because those are clearly your starters. I mean, I'm just wondering how I don't know how you can expect to kind of get a certain fullback at a certain level. I mean, someone like James Justin actually would be perfect, wouldn't it? The requisite kind of experience, but not starting. It's kind of perfect. But it must be a tricky sell that to, right, you're going to come in and, you're going to play a handful of games. We can't guarantee how much game time you're going to be, but you've got to be kind of good enough for the Premier League. I mean, that's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. It's not, because you're not talking about a position where you get brought on as a substitute either to change games. You are waiting for an injury and that's it. Yeah. So you just sat there until an injury happens, which does leave then a real small pool of players to go for. I think of James Justin, I think of Max Aarons as an example as well, who's now at Rangers, but he'd have been one of them that can play on either side, that would have multiple opportunities on both, obviously given the fact that he can play on both sides to impact games and feature. Yeah, Premier League experience, but maybe they've kind of lost their way in the careers a little bit. So Max Aarons was at Bournemouth last year, didn't play. James Justin's had some injuries. They would be then worthwhile kind of trying to build back into a project. I think James Justin's a really smart signing because he's not going to start every week, but he has got the capabilities to start every week if and when the time would come that he'd be called upon. We have seen that. Leicester fans definitely have not seen the same player that he was when he first came through. He's had a really bad Achilles injury, I believe, and it's kind of seen him out. But that's what we need, and this is why I weren't so quick to bin Byram off. Byram's got bags of experience, and he will be happy just sat there. So
I had him on my release list as well. We'd have been screwed, wouldn't we, if he'd have been gone as well.
But it makes sense now, doesn't it? In hindsight, I think you kind of understanding the situation in which it's in. Like, Jayden Bogle arguably is our first name on the team sheet.
Yeah.
So how do you recruit for somebody to just sit there behind him?
Yeah.
If you've not got a youngster coming through or something like that,
Do you think maybe we should have kept Farke?
I don't think Jimmy Farke really wanted to stay as much as what gets made out. I know that he puts on that video at the end, like, I read it, signed the contract. You don't know whether the club offered him something. It just wasn't what he wanted. I reckon the club probably offered him a year, maybe 2, and Betis were offering him 3. That's my gut instinct. Yeah, I would have rather him be part of this squad, so we then didn't have a problem on the left. But I also wouldn't have wanted him starting games in the Premier League.
No, that's it, isn't it? I think I would have felt kind of better knowing Farke's there, but kind of worried.
Yeah, I know.
As well. But it's just, how tricky is it going to be to recruit for it? In terms of other positions, obviously we mentioned it, El Khanous, he's kind of been the big rumour this week, and again, I mean, local journalists saying, there's not many players, and then all of a sudden, a few hours later, other journalists, El Khanous, and there's a release clause and everything, and a very, very talented player, someone who can progress the ball. I think he had something like, he created 48 chances last season for Leicester, or 42, something like that. And his G&A doesn't look great, but that's pointless argument because he created 48 chances for his team last season. Is this one Leeds just need to try and get done then, in your opinion, Jay, or is this going to be one that rumbles on? Because I would imagine there'll be a lot of suitors for him.
The noise is that he's the replacement for Eze should Eze go to Arsenal. Yeah. That's the noise, and that's what then he has to deal with. Does he want to play European football with Palace? Go live in London? You know, team have just won the FA Cup under Glasner, who's proven himself to be a really good manager. Or do you run the risk of getting relegated again? And Crystal Palace might go down, by the way. I mean, they're not, infallible, but the likelihood is that they probably won't. So, yeah, that's the decision that he's now in. If we activate the release clause, that doesn't mean that he then just signs. He's got a decision to make as well. If we do activate the release clause, the likelihood is that Palace would move things on a little bit quicker if they've identified him as the player that they want to replace him. I don't know why, but I just get a feeling that this one doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I don't know why. That's just how I feel about it. I like it. I think it'd be a good signing. I don't know where exactly he would fit within the system. I'm not sure he's that replacement for Piao or Solomon. I still think we would need to sign another one out there, but it would definitely improve us. It would definitely give us another, real viable option. It'd give us that creativity that we're really, really missing. Really missing. We've been missing that creativity, really. I know we had Solomon, and Solomon was pretty much it last season, but we've been missing that creativity since Rutter went. Rutter was that kind of X-factor spark, especially central, who can kind of pick it up. I like Brendan, but we know that Brendan's not going to give us that. He's not that kind of player. He's not that kind of 10. We always hark on about Pablo Hernandez and Buendia, them kind of players which can unlock defences. You need that, especially when you're going to be without the ball more and you're going to be doing a lot more defending. I do think, just kind of looping it back into the way that we're setting up, I do think that we are going to be a lot more rigid. I think we're going to be a lot more defensively sound. I think that we will see a lot of boring games this year. Yeah. I just get that feeling that it's going to be very pragmatic, very, very pragmatic, which again is going to make it even more key that we sign this player that can unlock the doors for us to score goals, because we are going to need to score goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Gavin's comment, felt the same with Piao was not going to happen. And
I thought that would. No.
That's the problem, isn't it? These kind of protracted deals that go run, and then if you fall short, you're just like, oh no, come on. An interesting one, actually, that I saw this morning, I did put it on Twitter as well. Rasmus Højlund, 30 million, Man United, apparently he's got a sale price. Would you touch Rasmus Højlund? Would you for 30 million? Someone who, and let's say it's been a shocking time at Man United for him, but the potential he showed at Atalanta, his age, the price is not out of the realms. We'll have to spend at least the same on Muniz if that happens. Could you be tempted into that one, Jay?
My problem with him is where the confidence level would be at. How much of a rebuilding job are we going to have to do for him to be live this year? Like, there's clearly a player there. There's clearly a reason Manchester United spent the money that they did on him. I think the version of him at Atlanta was very, very good. Again, though, we're taking that of, Manchester United have not had any good operators. Bruno Fernandes, maybe you could say, has had a couple of good seasons, but you're talking about the team that finished 16th last season, they're crap. They've got a crap manager, they're crap throughout the whole team. Like, they've got problems all over the side. Is he good enough to play for Leeds United? Of course he is. Yeah, of course he is. I would think that we could maybe better spend that 30 million on a player that's a little bit more ready-made now. Like, his goal return wasn't ever brilliant. No. So I would probably like to go in a slightly different direction. But if they did make that move, I think some people would be casting him off too quickly. Unfair,
Yeah. Do you think where we stand at the moment, if this, it won't be, but if this was the squad as it finished up, would it be relegated, do you think? Or do you think there's enough as what you've seen to scrap it out?
Really, really good question. It would be really, really close. It'd be really, really, really close. I think you'd be talking about finishing 17th or 18th. That's where I think we would be. I think we've got a lot that's good. Bear in mind yesterday's game, we were missing 5 first-team players.
Yeah.
Missing arguably his best right-hand side in James and Bogle, which is huge. We were Missing Jack Harrison. I don't want to glorify Jack Harrison, but I still think he will have a part to play if he stays. We were missing. Who else were we missing? We're missing one other key player.
Perry, Bogue, Perry.
Yeah. I think Perry's going to be huge. You know, you've seen over the years of teams staying up in the Premier League. Nick Pope, I think of Forest's goalkeepers when they stayed up in them first couple of seasons. They can make or break a side staying up. Yeah. You know, they really can. So I think he's going to be huge. So I think it'd be close. I just worried that we wouldn't score the goals. We won't create the chances that we'd need.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to do well to score a goal a game. Playing or having the creativity that we've currently got. So, yeah.
I don't know about you, but it feels like there's more teams in flux. I mean, probably because we're focusing on it more, but there seems to be so many fans of teams because I love to kind of have a look around and see how other fans are feeling about, you know, transfers and squad building and, you know, how they're getting on in pre-season. And for me, it feels like there's a lot of teams in flux. I mean, even Sunderland, who obviously you know, they've spent, you know, 100 million and, you know, seem to sign players just like that. And they've improved the quality. You know, they're getting humped in pre-season. I think they've lost every game in pre-season. And, you know, you're looking at how they're going, you know, I think there's concern there. You know, you look at, you know, West Ham, you know, I know they've signed, they've got Callum Wilson, haven't they, in West Ham? But, you know, there's a lot of unhappiness and unrest there with Potter and everything, losing Kudos. You're looking at Palace, you know, someone like Palace, Glasner coming out saying they've not made the signings that he thought they should have and would have by now. You've got, obviously, Wolves that have lost key players, the aforementioned Everton as well, who, you know, seem to be kind of hitting that panic button a little bit as well now. You know, they could announce 3 players tomorrow, but it feels like this is an opportunity season, doesn't it? I mean, Brentford, I've not even mentioned Brentford, and look, we know all their problems. You know, it feels like a massive opportunity, but it makes you also realise that, you know, our fan, but we think we're the only team, don't we? And we're the ones who are struggling and, we're worried about recruitment. I mean, I would probably say there's a lot of teams there that are looking at Leeds United's recruitment and going, well, they've been very active, much more active than we have.
I think there'll be a lot of worry. You know, there's not these banker go downers. Like maybe you could say Burnley if you're being super critical, but I do think that they'll have a part to play as well.
Yeah.
But you know, the comparison with last season and the season before, I mean, it's super competitive down there now. Yeah. Super, and you're absolutely right. There's definitely a flux of change of the, you know, the guard. There's some teams that are going to get caught out this season, and I think all them ones that you mentioned, especially I think Brentford, West Ham, and Everton, I think have got real problems. You know, when you talk about our difficulties with recruitment, really, we're not even having a difficulty recruiting. No. You know, it's only been a week since we signed a new, brand new goalkeeper who's, you know, been playing Champions League football. Like, you know, you got to have some perspective on where we're at. So, you know, Everton's recruitment, I mean, and Brentford, I mean, their moves and what they've done with the management and everything else that comes with it, it's madness, really, isn't it? So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, mate. Everton are a really interesting one because I think everybody's just like, yeah, they'll be fine because of David Moyes. But he nearly took them down a couple of times when they were really bad before he left. And he never did. They survived, and then they've nearly gone down a few times, and they've got lucky ever since. At some point, it's going to catch them. Yeah. And their recruitment problems has been legendary now, hasn't it? And they've kind of maximised the potential damage by then having the stadium move, because it's just hamstrung them into being able to do nothing, and nobody wants to go there. So they're in a real state.
I honestly don't know how they've survived for so long, Jason. I mean, we were in a relegation battle with them. You know, they were fighting relegation before that. I mean, I have no idea how I mean, that transfer budget they had under Sean Dyche, where they signed, I think, one player for about 1.5 million. And how on earth did they get out of that? I mean, you know, and it does feel like you say, is their time, you know, is it coming home to roost now?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I hope so, anyway.
I'd like to see him go down, just for employing Lampard personally. But I think Sunderland are an interesting one to speak about as well. You know, PSF's just put down there about what they needed to do. They needed to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
And people are kind of glorifying these 4 or 5 pretty decent signings that they've made, saying that that's then enough to keep them up. It's not. Their defence is woeful. Really, really, really bad. Miles off it. Really, that team that got to the Premier League shouldn't have been in the Premier League. I think there's a couple of real good talent there that could catch a few people off guard. But really, they need even more work. They need probably double what they've got to stand a chance of going up, staying up. I think they did sign a keeper the other day, which I think is a big move because Patson's not it. He's a bit like Armelier, really. So, I think they'll be in and around. I think they've given themselves a chance. The way that they've gone about it has given them a real opportunity to still be within touch and distance come the end of the season, whereas like Ipswich, for me, anybody that thought Ipswich stood a chance, just again dumped the ball. I was talking with Ipswich fans in the summer. I remember it last season. They were like, "Oh, this team's easy, good enough to finish top 10." I was like, "You don't have a clue. You literally don't have a clue. You've signed a championship team." And
bang on.
You
bang on. It's amazing, because when you look back at, I think it was the Kieran McKenna thing. I think people thought he's a wizard and he'll manage to somehow level them up, but Premier League,
the levels different.
Chewed them up and spat them out.
Yeah, did.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, not to bang on about Everton again, but Kinnear being there, and it's funny because watching a couple of fans kind of Kinnear's kind of coming out this kind of slow to act transfer business, and it's interesting because Kinnear was always kind of pretty interesting with Leeds on that front, and I think obviously he wasn't in Victor Orta's position or anything, but it'll be interesting to see how that pans out with Kinnear there and what they think of him in a few months.
Imagine the noise. Yeah, I can hear it now. I mean, I do feel sorry for them. I mean, obviously they've gone over there at a time where Everton are in a real state of change, and moving into this new stadium and all the rest of it is going to create its own challenges. That's a job, man. That is a job, isn't it? I remember when West Ham first moved into their new stadium. Excuse me. It caused them a real problem with atmosphere, and they couldn't quite get it to fit, and they nearly went down a couple of times in the new stadium as well. When really they were performing so much lower than their capabilities, really. I mean, West Ham, I know they had that time under Moyes with winning Europe and whatnot, but they are perennial underachievers.
Yeah, they are.
Their team has been stacked for years, and they just constantly seem to finish 15th. It's like
it's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know what? Another one, that team that flies under the radar, Fulham. They've only made one signing this summer. And it's going to be super interesting to see. I think Marco Silva, obviously very good manager, and they should have enough. But there's a lot of teams you're looking at going, they might not have a great season. There might just be an opportunity there. It wouldn't surprise me if Fulham all of a sudden terrible season relegated.
No, that I mean, Fulham are always going to be in that pool out there, especially if Michael Silva leaves. He's a very good manager. He's established them very well. But if they went through a change, a little bit like Brentford have, as an example, they who knows where that will. At some point in the future, I would say in the next 10, 15 years worth of Premier League football, Fulham will end up back in the Championship.
Yeah,
it's just the kind of the law of football, isn't it? Yeah, like.
In terms of outgoings, and in particular Matteo Joseph, we touched on it last week, and for me that is a more baffling decision, the one that he's taken day by day. Yeah. I mean, Beren Cross, he's ostracised from the squad now. He's, I don't know, training with the under-21s or whatever it is, and I mean, I'm absolutely baffled by what he's done. I mean, Betis have now gone and signed someone else, I believe, another striker, so that closes the door on Betis for Joseph, you would think. Leeds are going to stand firm by all accounts. And I mean, I honestly can't get my head around the decision he's taken, especially when you've basically got no reputation in the game.
Yeah, he's been badly advised, hasn't he? I always have had this feeling that he's had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. And this isn't me talking now retrospectively. I actually think it can be a good thing if you then back it up. But he hasn't ever backed it up. Not at first team level. At 21 level, maybe, I think he's really well thought of in Spain. And I think that's why the attraction probably comes from Spain, because, they know him at under 21 level. If we had an under 21 striker in England, he'd be highly thought of if he wasn't playing by his main club, but playing every game for the 21s. He'd be well thought of in this country. I get it. But, he's got way above his station. Starting not turning up for training, not turning up for games. Like, that is not the route you want to go down when you've got a 3-year contract left and you've got some big owners like the 49ers and you've got Premier League money. Because the fact is, Matteo, we don't need to sell you. You could literally just sit there. It'll cost us nothing. You cost us nothing, so there's no kind of danger to P&R and all the rest of it. We'd be open to sell you with the right offer, given the fact that it'll then give us the freedom to do other stuff. But you do not hold the cards in this situation. I think what will end up happening with Matteo Joseph is towards the end of the window, he'll go out on loan. That's what I think will probably end up happening, maybe with an obligation with X amount of money or an option to buy or something like that. But I think he'll end up going out on loan. And yeah, I do think that whoever's advised him to kind of go down this route has been really, really short-sighted. Really short-sighted.
Yeah, absolutely. Rumours for Gellart to Rangers, apparently. I don't know if that's a little 49ers thing going on.
40 million.
Oh, yeah. Sort all the PSR out, and yeah, absolutely. Be a good move, wouldn't it? Good test for Gellart. Massive club, obviously, good atmosphere, playing in Europe, hopefully get game time and everything. I know they had a poor result, and I saw Russell Martin blaming the players straight away. First game, you think, oh my goodness me, man, get a grip. But good move for Joffrey, that.
Yeah, I think we are finding it pretty tricky to move some players on because we've discussed this a few times, haven't we, on the show? Like, we haven't got that many jewels, really. Not that are worth big money that's worth us then selling. Joe Gellart is a big one to get off because of the wages. That is a huge problem with Joe Gellart. The quicker we can get him gone for that, the better. I do think it's a great move for him. I think it's a great move for Rangers as well, though. Rangers could really revitalise him as a player. Yeah. We've seen players struggle south of the border that then go north of the border and absolutely tear it up. Kenny Miller was an unbelievable player for Rangers. Couldn't do it at championship level in this country. Had a couple of flirts at Premier League level, but couldn't do it. And there's several upon several.
You can have a good career, can't you, up there? You
can
have a great career. You can be a bit of a club legend, whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, you go there and ball out, which you get. Look at Kemar Roof. Kemar Roof is like really well thought of at Rangers. Like, he's an absolute bit of a legend nowadays at Rangers. Yeah. No reason why you can't go there and do that, because technically he's very, very good. He needs to lock down a position. Whichever manager gets hold of him now really needs to say, you are X, you are a 9 or a 10 or an inside forward from the right or whatever. And that is what you're going to play. And I'm going to coach you and train you to adapt into that position and make it your own. This constant movement of him, of where he plays, he would have probably existed much better in the 90s, playing as a second man alongside a tall striker, and unfortunately we don't.
All these one striker formations that we have now. Yeah,
the game's changed, hasn't it? He's a bit of a poacher. Him and Greenwood played up front together in the 21s, and it worked really, really well. He's never really been able to do it on his. He's too small and he's not fast enough. So yeah, good luck to him. Good luck to him. I hope he smashes it.
Yeah, double deal Rangers. Take Greenwood as well, please. Are you expecting a busy week? Do you think there's going to be some movement? Do you think maybe a couple of outgoings we could start seeing? Are you hoping that we get a few over the line as well?
Have we got one more game? We have, haven't we?
We have, Milan next week.
Milan,
I think
next weekend,
I think we're over in Ireland, aren't we?
Yeah. I think there will be probably one incoming this week, and I think we'll probably see more outgoings, and hopefully then come the Milan game, we have a bit more of a full squad and we can get a real sense of where we're at. And I think before the start of the season, 2 weeks tomorrow, that's madness.
Mad.
We will probably have 2 through the door. Yeah. I would imagine maybe even 3, but I would definitely think that we will have the creative player that we want, a fullback, and I think the 9 will go later on into the window.
Right.
That's what I think. I think the 9 situation is going to rumble on because Rodrigo Muniz will want the best for him, and he's got, he could sit at Fulham for another year. What? You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for him to rush. So, Fulham come in and sign another striker and say, Rodrigo, look, you're going. And then Newcastle don't pursue their interest, and the best option for him is Leeds United. He'll end up at Leeds United. If he doesn't, at some point, the 49ers will go, right, this is your date that you need to work by, because otherwise we need to move on to other targets. And they'll wait for the right target to come. And if it comes later on in the window, it comes later on in the window. We can proceed with Mecha, Pirro, and, Dan James if we needed to Willing
Harry
on to it. Harry Gray, if we needed
And like
to.
I say, it's interesting with the Harry Gray thing because there's a lack of kind of top youth products coming through, isn't there? You know, I saw Dan Bardell, the Aston Villa journalist, and he made a really good point about Aston Villa and the fact that they've just not got players coming through, whereas, you know, Liverpool and whoever else, they kind of have these kind of academy players that are up to such a, you know, good level that can come in and flesh your squad out. And it would have been perfect if we'd have had a budding left back or a budding right back coming through who's happy to kind of have less game time, but is actually good enough. And I think there's got to be that kind of thought process where, you know, players like Harry Gray or whatever, they've got to have some time on the pitch because there's got to be kind of, well, from one point of view, a future sellable asset, you know, like Archie. Two, you know, you've got to produce your own players at some point, you know, and it's kind of gone a little bit quiet on that front with Leeds, hasn't it? You know, last couple of years.
It is something that concerns me a little bit. You know, we were very quick to bash Orta and Rads with their transfer strategy approach. One thing that they did do that was very good was they looked at investing big in terms of perspective into the players that were coming through. So the likes of Greenwood, Joffe, you know, we signed Sam Greenwood for £1 million. He could end up being a hell of a player. He could have ended up being a hell of a player. He still might, and he's still certainly of a championship level. You know, so he can flesh the squad out with enough quality. But again, he's earning his, you know, his trade. You know, he's developing a natural progression and pace, and he might get a little bit of game time here and there. We haven't got any of that. It's first team, and then the 21s are nowhere near. That's it. He's Harry Gray at the moment, who's 16. Like, where are the 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are, you know, the Archies, who the age that Archie would be at now? Where are them players that are coming in to play a few minutes? We haven't got any.
We've lost a few from the academy as well, haven't we? You know, Man City have snatched a player, Tottenham snatched a player. You know, you're looking at going, we need to really kind of, that's got to be a pipeline, hasn't it? You know, we've got to really, I know it's long-term thinking, but it is a little bit concerning, isn't it?
You definitely need a gateway because, like you said, it's ready-made, full profit. It's something that we've always been good at. You know, every fan base loves one of your own. You know, it is part of the game, and you need to invest in that part of it. While I do also recognise the fact that we need players for the here and now, you need to do both. You know, you need to be really investing in that area of the game. It is hard. I mean, obviously, I've worked in academy recruitment. It's tough, you know, because, you know, Manchester City have 100, maybe more teams. You know, they might have 10 at each different age range, maybe more. Like, it's literally like a farm. It is literally like a farm, and they just take them all. They just take them all in, and then when they're not good enough at 14, 15, 16, they just go and just spit them back out into grassroots football. That's what happens. And by that point, you know, these kids have been told that they're going to make it, and then they don't, and they lose interest, and, you know, teams like Leeds don't find them because they stop playing or they stop really being interesting. Where really, for their development, they'd have been better coming through where they had an opportunity to make it into the grade. You know, so many players don't make top level careers, but they will make a career further down the ladder. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of gets glossed over. I feel sorry for some of these teams. I mean, with complaining how bad we have it and we're in the Premier League, imagine if you're at Bradford, you know, whoever in League 2 or League 1. Yeah.
Well, they changed that. There was a rule, wasn't there, a few years ago that came in that made it so much easier for academy players to get snatched up, wasn't there? There was something that came in. I remember about, I don't know if it was like 5-10 years ago, but something came in where it, you know, suddenly they could just be snapped up. And really, it should be, you know, it should be protected more because, you know, I mean, things like that at Man City, you know, where you've just got hundreds of kids and, you know, there should be some kind of cap. You know, you can't do that. You know, you really can't do it. It's not fair on the player, is it? It's not fair on their welfare either. I mean, Gavin says here, any noise on Finlay Gorman at saying, well, do you know, it's funny because you always hear the next big thing, don't you? And then that's forgotten about, and then there's another one, you know, and it's mad. I mean, you know, it is worrying. It is worrying, and you know, like you said, Jason, Leeds have always been a team that produce players. We've always produced academy players, but it's kind of drying up a little bit at the minute.
It's definitely very dry. The well is dry at the minute at that like first team potential level.
Yeah. Indeed. So just before we nip off, I've got a Sunday dinner that's nearly ready, so perfect timing. Hopefully a busy week, Jay. Hopefully, you know, a bit of positivity coming in. I mean, I'll be all over Twitter every day, keeping abreast of it. But yeah, fingers crossed we have a good week, Jay.
I don't know how you put up with Twitter. One of the best things that I ever did. I deleted it off my phone and I give it the odd look. I tend to boot Twitter up. The first thing that I read just stinks of no intelligence whatsoever, and I turn it off. That tends to be my relationship with it now is so bad. But yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Hope for a busy week. You know, I still think we need to take the positives out of yesterday. We matched up against a top flight, you know, the constantly in Europe, Villarreal. You know, we didn't disgrace ourselves. We looked competent enough defensively. You know, we more than matched them for large parts of the game. Some things to work on creativity wise, but we've still got plenty of time in the window. We've still got another month yet to go, and you know the noises are that we're gonna fill them gaps. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the season starting, mate. I can't wait for the Everton game, if I'm honest.
Do you know what? I'm burning for it. I know people are saying the season feels like it's coming around too early and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm ready.
Let's go.
Let's go. Because I'm desperate now.
Now that football league started as well, League One and League Two starting yesterday. That's like crazy. A championship starts next weekend, I think, doesn't it? Yeah. The fact that you know we're now last to go. I'm like, no, I want a competitive game. Like, let me play.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, thank you everyone who's got comments in. Loads of comments today. Really appreciate that. If you're watching the video again later, get your comments in as well. Let us know what you thought about what me and Jay discussed. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Get subscribed to the channel as well. Myself and Jay, we will be back with another Leeds Latest. If we get an exciting signing or something, we'll try and hop on and do something either together or we'll get individual videos loaded up depending on schedules and all that good stuff. But we'll see you again next week for another episode of Leeds Latest. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Stephen Brown, and with me as ever has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Whoa.